Welcome, friend, to Life and Liberty Radio. I'm David Householder, here to encourage your pursuit of happiness. You and I are partners, exploring our shared spiritual journeys. Together, we're dreaming and working for a free society. Tell others today about our adventure in faith and freedom. So breathe in, open your mind, lift up your spirit. Let's get started. Everyone seems to be talking about common sense, gun control. We have to do something. And of course, we want to do something. We don't want people using guns in inappropriate ways. We want to use them only for protecting or hunting or hobbies or target practice, those kind of things. But we don't want them used by crazy people for crazy things. And so people are landing on phrases like, we need to do background checks. That's the common sense thing, background checks, because then we'll know what crazy people are getting guns. Well, the truth is, to do background checks, you need a database, something to check it against. So somebody goes to buy, Fred Price goes to buy a gun. And Mr. Fred Price goes up to the counter and says, I'd like to buy a gun. And the guy says, no, we got to run a background check. So who's going to have the data on Fred Price? That would be the government. My guess is it would only work if it was the federal government, because state governments wouldn't have that much information. I've lived in several states, so which of those states counts for my permanent record, as my teacher would say. Careful, that's going to be on your permanent record. And we learned in grade school there's no such thing as a permanent record. I wish we'd known in second grade. But anyways, the truth is we don't want a permanent record. I'll speak for myself, I do not want a national database that would have enough information to be an effective screen. So what do we mean by that? Well, if you want background checks, and everybody says, oh yeah, we got to find out if this person's crazy. We can't sell guns to crazy people. Okay, I get that. And I would love to make sure that those dark criminal minds wouldn't get guns. But the truth is, to be able to ensure that, you have to have a database on everybody. Think about that. A database on everybody, not just their names, addresses, and phone numbers. I don't like giving that out. Do you like giving that out? When people ask for all kinds of personal information, yeah, we'll give you this free, but give us your personal information. You kind of, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, the same thing is true when people ask for personal information. And how much personal information would you have to have on a national database to make background checks effective? You'd have to have psychological information, temperament information, volatility information. You would have to know more about each person than the person's best friends know. Seriously, you would have to be able to look into the very heart and life of every human being in America, 330 million people. Like that's a good thing. You see, people don't understand the unintended consequences of well-meaning ideas like a background check. If you want a background check that's just cursory, that makes everybody feel good, great. We'll have an incomplete database of some names, and we'll figure out what's what. But the truth is, to have an effective database to make any difference whatsoever, to keep out the crazy people from getting guns, and they can get them anyways, but to ostensibly to make it impossible to buy in a retail setting, to buy a gun, you would have to know everything about everybody. And I don't want anyone knowing everything about everybody. I don't think America's headed for a dictatorship. I'm not some weird conspiracy guy. But why create the tools for a dictatorship ahead of time so that in case someone like that comes along, they could just press a button and there it would be, a database of everybody. You'd know everything they thought, everything they believe in, the things that make them mad, the things that make them irate. And how high up on the irate scale would you have to go to have a gun denied to you? And then what would you do? You'd get one on the black market. I could get one in 2 days on the black market here in Los Angeles. I have no guns in my house, not one. But I reserve the right to get one if I feel like it, because if this is really a free country, then we ought to be able to do that. So the database would be massive. Oh, that's just a theory. Nobody's going to have a database like that. Well, if you don't have a database like that, a background check won't work. You're looking at error levels of, well over 70, 80% if you don't have everything on everybody, and you may as well not do it. There's no point. None. Well, I got to do something. Well, do something, but don't do the wrong thing. Don't take away all of our rights, all of our privacy, and give everything about us over to the government for something that may not work. And besides, you think the government's ever going to do something without a 1 or 2% error rate? Never have in their whole history. So 330 million people, that would be like 6-7 million people would be registered wrongly. What if one of them got a gun? That couldn't happen. Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could. This is just dumb, folks. We need local control. We need local social control. We need local responsibility. We are our brother's keepers. It's up to us to pay attention to our neighbors. And if they're acting crazy and shooting guns off, we need to pay attention to that. We really do. I remember my dad in Kellogg, Idaho. We had like one cop in town, the whole town. We lived in the mountains. And we had a neighbor who was a little volatile, done some jail time. And, we knew him. And we thought, well, hey, let's keep an eye on him. And we did. And all the neighbors did. And we had an alarm system put into our house because of it. But still, he's a neat guy, this neighbor of ours, but he had some troubles. And he had a gun up in his house, and he was going to shoot some people and shoot himself. And my dad walked over 2 houses away and said, Mike, give me the gun. Give me the gun. And he wrestled it out of his hand and sat on him until the one cop showed up. And my dad got a citation, which he threw away because he thought this was what everyone should do. We are our brother's keepers. This is the only way to stop these things, is to pay attention to each other. Not to be busybodies, but to know your dang neighbors and figure out what's going on. And be social and be friendly and be protective. It's up to us. It's responsibility. This is not something the nanny state needs to do for us. Besides, they can't. They're just never going to be able to pull that off. So as we look at this situation, we have to understand that this is not theoretical. There is something called the Utah Data Center, and you can look it up yourself. And the Utah Data Center is being put together for the NSA, the National Security Administration, or whatever it's called. We've got so many security groups, and they don't seem to add to our security much, but that's beside the point. They're building this gigantic computer in Utah, and this gigantic computer is going to do one thing and one thing only. It's going to store every tweet, every email, every SMS, everything that gets sent back and forth in the United States. Why? Because we need cybersecurity. And what they'll do is they'll put in little phrases and search for little phrases. They're trigger phrases towards terrorism or who knows what. And you better be careful that you don't put stuff in your tweets or your Facebook posts that might be construed as, whatever, questionable. I do not want a gigantic computer in Utah recording my phone calls. Listen, my phone calls are so boring. But it's none of their business. I can have boring all to myself. I seriously, this is not something the government needs to be a part of. We need to protect you. No, you don't. Leave us alone. Leave us alone, will you? Please. We get this continual, I'll take care of you. You just act like a kid. No, we're grown-ups. This is our property. These are our ideas. These are our lives. Leave us alone and stop taking from us, please. And stop trying to scare us with these threats like North Korea or whatever, so you can build up more military with billions and billions and billions of dollars and pretend to keep us safe while you go around poking your nose in other people's business and causing nothing but trouble. And one final word to those of you who want gun control. Seriously, you have every right to want gun control. I don't. It's not about guns for me. It's about the personal right to defend yourself with force if need be. I've got plenty of physical force I can use in most situations. But the truth is, if I felt threatened, I have every right to protect the people I love, myself, and my property from aggression that is basically initiated by someone else. I have every right to stop that. Do I have to? No. Can I turn the other cheek? Absolutely. But do I have a right to stop it? Yes, I do. That's a natural right. I want to stick to that right, and I don't want it taken away. The Founding Fathers understood this. So those of you who want gun rights or gun control, you have one option in my mind. Get out there and repeal the Second Amendment. If you can't, leave us alone. Leave us alone. Repeal it or leave us alone. Don't pretend that you believe in the Constitution and then infringe the rights to defend ourselves without saying, oh, we're not really infringing it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So, either repeal it or leave it. That's all I've got to say about that. Background checks, no thank you. Would I like to check everyone's mighty gun? Sure I would. But the truth is, in doing so, we give up everything about ourselves. And we give the government the right to look at every aspect of our personalities. That's not an America I want to live in. Well, that's all for today on Life and Liberty Radio. Thanks so much for sharing this part of your spiritual journey with me. Now, the views on this program are not necessarily those of my advertisers, sponsors, places I work or do business with. They're purely my own, but I'm sharing them with you, so share your ideas with me. Write me on Twitter at Liberty House, LIBERTYHOUS, no E. Until next time, let's continue dreaming and working for a free and spiritually grounded society.